So they were promised then by Donald Trump at the weekend, and they have now come into effect. US tariffs of 10% on Chinese goods coming into the US imposed, and immediately China responding with its own tariffs of up to 15% on coal and liquefied natural gas imports from the US, and 10% tariffs on a range of other goods. All that after Trump, though, suspended his threat of 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada at the last minute, agreeing to a 30-day pause in return for concessions on border and crime enforcement. Well, let's delve into all of that for you now here on France 24. France 24's business editor, Charles Pellegrin, is joining me here on set. Charles, we're going to begin on the US side. What is it bringing in exactly this Tuesday? What are those tariffs exactly?
So the Trump administration has now officially implemented a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods entering the United States. This in a bid to stop fentanyl shipments from China to get to the United States. This in addition to any other tariffs that have been imposed on Chinese goods since Trump started his trade war against the country during his first term. As a reminder, these tariffs are paid by the importer of Chinese goods. It's up to them afterwards to decide whether they absorb that increase in the price of importation or increase their consumer prices as a result. So either US-based companies will see their margins affected or US consumers will pay more.
Well, as I said, China now announcing, though, its own tariffs on US goods in retaliation.
That's right. And that's sort of what we saw on the screen just before. We're seeing the second round of a trade war between Washington and Beijing. As opposed to the US tariffs, the Chinese response doesn't affect all US goods entering China. Instead, it targets particular sectors. Starting on February 10th, 10% tariffs will be slapped onto U.S. crude oil imports, some automobiles and farm equipment, and 15% tariffs will hit imports of coal and liquefied natural gas. The move is a forceful message to the U.S., but also largely symbolic. China doesn't import that much oil from the U.S., favoring Russian or Saudi crude instead, and U.S. LNG imports only represented only about 6% of China's total imports last year.
They didn't limit their retaliation to just tariffs, did they, Charles? They also announced a slew of other measures targeting US companies.
And this is a way to try and get large US corporations to put pressure and lobby the Trump administration to change its policies with regards to China. One such measure is the launch of an antitrust probe into tech giant Google. Google largely left China in 2010 when Beijing banned the search engine from its domestic internet, but it still has operations there selling ads to Chinese companies looking for global promotion. The probe doesn't specify what the antitrust investigation is about specifically, but it could be targeted either at Google's hold over ad sales or its Android operating system, which is used by Chinese smartphone makers. It also placed 2 US companies on an unreliable entity list, which threatens to restrict their sales and activities in China, as well as their investments. PVH is the owner of clothing brands Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, while Illumina is a biotech company partnered with another tech giant, NVIDIA. And finally, Beijing has announced new export controls on tungsten-related exports. This ultra-hard metal is crucial in the making of weapons and semiconductors, and China controls about 80% of the world's supply. So this is adding pressure on the U.S. defense and tech sectors. And this is a wide-ranging response meant to send a strong message in terms of threats of punitive action, but the impact could be fairly limited so as to leave room to negotiate. And Trump has said that talks with China could take place within the next 24 hours.
Yeah, huge implications, of course. Let's find out now how the markets are reacting to all of it.
Let's have a look at the Asian bourses this Tuesday. Mainland Chinese stocks in Shanghai and Shenzhen trading lower on that news, as you can see there. Shenzhen is especially interesting as the southern city is where many of China's exporting companies are located. Hong Kong trading a lot higher, although the U.S. has said Hong Kong will be treated the same as mainland China when assessing tariffs. Also, a quick look at how oil prices are being affected by China's decision to levy import duties on U.S. crude oil prices, falling, whether for the American benchmark, the West Texas Intermediate, or the North Sea benchmark, the Brent crude, signifying fears regarding oil demand.
I'll stay with the Charles, because we're going to talk now about Mexico and China. Donald Trump suspending his threat of 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Said China, didn't I? Meant Canada at the last minute. Agreeing to a 60-day pause in return for concessions on border and crime enforcement. Cami Knight has more.
First Mexico and now Canada. Donald Trump is putting the brakes on tariffs, at least for the next month. After a phone call with the US President, Justin Trudeau announced Canada would be implementing a $1 billion border plan to help stop the flow of fentanyl and that tariffs would be put on hold for 30 days. Just a few hours earlier, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was victoriously walking onto the stage of her morning press conference to make a similar announcement.
He asked me how long I wanted to pause tariffs. I said forever. He told me how much time. I told him a month. I'm sure that during this month we'll be able to deliver good results for its people and the people of Mexico.
In return, Mexico has agreed to send 10,000 National Guard troops to its northern border. They'll be tasked with preventing drug trafficking into the US, with a particular focus on fentanyl, which has been one of Trump's main concerns.
Fentanyl has killed this year at least 200,000 people. It's pouring in from China through Mexico and Canada, and they've got to stop it. And if they don't stop it, the tariffs are going to get worse, a lot worse.
Trump has confirmed the delay on Truth Social, saying negotiations will be taking place throughout the coming month to find a more permanent deal. It's a major backtrack from Trump, who on Saturday had announced sweeping tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada and China. The 10% levy on China is still set to go into effect on Tuesday.
So Donald Trump's decision to delay imposing severe tariffs on imports to the US from Canada and Mexico has investors, of course, and business owners on all sides of America's borders breathing, well, rather a sigh of relief.
But that sigh of relief is mixed with a growing sense of unease with economic stakeholders questioning whether or not to go ahead with key capital expenditures as they come to terms with the reality that the US under Trump is once again an unreliable partner. Brian Quinn reports.
Just outside Atlanta, Georgia, this owner of a small grocery store is still on edge after narrowly avoiding having to pay an extra 25% on products from Canada and Mexico.
Business owners are always hit hardest, right? Because we have to pay higher prices, and then unfortunately, it causes our prices to go up, which nobody likes to see. And so, of course, we're nervous.
Donald Trump's last-minute decision to pause his North American tariffs has brought a reprieve for business owners who rely on imports from the U.S.'s top trading partners. But the relief may be temporary. The pause is only for 30 days, and the episode has proven that Trump is more than willing to upend crucial trade relationships, not just with U.S. adversaries, but with its closest allies as well. Across the border in Canada, where a Trump trade war would severely disrupt the highly integrated North American car manufacturing sector and throw the national economy into a deep recession, many citizens and officials alike say that lingering uncertainty for the future means the damage is done.
Even if there's no tariff tomorrow, companies, they don't want to invest. We need to have diversification of markets. So it includes working better with other provinces, but also with Europe, with other countries than U.S.
Despite Trump following through on his threat to slap additional 10% tariffs on Chinese goods, many analysts say China is a likely winner of the latest trade spat, as global economies seek a more reliable partner with whom to do business.
Brian Quinn reporting there. Charles, thanks very much. Charles Pellegrin from our business desk there, our business editor.